Here's an argument for Christian universalism, also known as apokatastasis or ultimate restoration. And this is a huge one to me. It's I believe there's a lot of scripture that backs up this idea or this belief, this doctrine of universal salvation. And I believe there's historical evidence for it. I did a video on it a couple of videos ago, and I wrote a document on it. So if you're interested in that document, just let me know in the comments below, and we can get that to you. So one argument that I find very compelling, and I was reminded of it today by someone's post, that basically is this: God didn't determine anything. I'll take that back. He did determine some things, but he did not determine who would and who would not spend eternity with him or spend eternity in this place called hell. And again, that's a loaded term. I need to do a video on it because you say the word hell and people automatically assume it means this. And it's just, I don't believe it means necessarily one specific thing. But let's just use the traditional term and definition, I guess, of eternal conscious torment. Um, and the argument goes something like this: God created you, and even though He created you with free will, with free choice, and again, these are loaded terms, but let's just kind of broad stroke here. He gave you the choice in this life, and let's say He even gave you enough grace to make this choice in this life, which I just don't see. Uh, so he gave you this choice, he gave you this free will, and you choose not to accept his free gift. And therefore, you die and you go to hell for eternity. But the argument actually comes from the beginning. Before God created you, he had you in mind, and he knew whether you would accept him or not. And he still chooses, based on the traditional view of hell, he still chooses to create, as of today, about I think this is correct, about 8 billion people, and about 5.5 billion of them are not Christians. And therefore, they're going to die and go to hell. And he still chose to create those people. And I think that is almost a defect on the character of God, because I know as a parent, I would not, if I knew all of this and I set out to create a world that I wanted my kids to live with me for eternity, but there was a good chance, really about a 70% chance, that they would actually die and not just be separated from me, but actually be tormented, like living in a place separate from me in torment, in eternal torment. So that, to me, to still choose to create those children seems cruel to me. And I don't know how else to think about it. So again, God has all of humanity in mind. He knows who will and who will not accept him based on their free will and his foreknowledge. And he still chooses to create all of humanity, knowing at least half of them, that's just being conservative, at least half of them are going to actually die and spend eternity in a place called hell with no way out. And I think that's an argument against the traditional view of hell. It's an argument against that specific characteristic of that God. And it's an argument for the universal salvation of all people. because God, in his knowledge, in his power, in his knowledge, he could create humanity, I believe, through this Molinistic perspective as well that I've learned from Tim Stratton, William Lane Craig. I've, through this Molinistic perspective that if I were to create Stuart in this circumstance, he would do this. Or if I choose to create Stuart in this circumstance, he would actually choose to do this rather than that. I think God just knows all of that. And he has chosen to create a world where he knows, and he has put people into places and circumstances where they do freely eventually choose to accept him. That every knee should bow and every tongue will actually and joyfully confess. So, I don't know. That's my thought for today as I was riding the tram back home from the beach.